Brian Fry is a venom hunter. Now he's on a quest to find 3 of North America's most toxic species.
It's a war zone. There's nowhere else in the world like this.
Each drop of lethal venom he collects is an opportunity for discovery.
We have a new toxin class. We have something we've never seen before.
That may one day save lives and unlock the power of venom. Brian Fry is in a remote corner of central Mexico. His target? Some of the most dangerous creatures on the planet. His mission? Discovering new sources of life-saving drugs and antivenoms. Located on Mexico's untouched Pacific coast is the Chimela-Cuixmala Biosphere Reserve. It's home to many animals found here and nowhere else in the world.
I zero in where these are isolated animals, or we know from clinical experience that these venoms are producing an unusual effect. That's now an opportunity to discover something new that we might be able to harness.
Brian has come to Chimela in search of the rare Mexican beaded lizard, a venomous species that could be the source of the next billion-dollar drug.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
How are you, mate?
Doing well, amigo. Yourself?
Fantastic.
It's good to see you again.
Absolutely.
Joining the mission is Brian's colleague, Alejandro Carbajal, a venom researcher from the National Autonomous University of Mexico.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to Chimela, please.
I've heard so much about this place.
Alejandro's local knowledge gives Brian his best shot at finding the rare lizard. Brian has been on the hunt for a wild beaded lizard for 5 years, but has yet to find one.
This is a really good spot for Heloderma. This is a kind of habitat that they like.
A lot of big rocks. Where the beaded lizards are nesting at night is going to be underneath the rocks. They'll be coming out to bask in the sunlight.
Beaded lizards and the closely related Gila monster belong to the venomous group of Heloderma. They appeared millions of years ago and have changed very little since. Their venom causes extreme pain in would-be attackers and death to their prey. Surprisingly, compounds extracted from the venom have medicinal uses for humans. Some may hold promise for treating heart disease and strokes. And one drug made from the venom has already been used to treat over 1 million diabetics. Brian hopes further study could lead to new medicinal uses. During the heat of the day, reptiles hide in Chimela's dense vegetation to avoid overheating.
Oh, it is stinking hot today.
Starting for my glasses.
Anytime you come to the tropics, you're naturally going to find a lot of venomous animals, but they're not going to be hanging off every tree. You have to actually work on it. And we are. All we have to do is keep looking, and looking, and looking, and looking, and then look some more. Rattlesnake.
The Mexican West Coast rattlesnake is one of the world's largest.
Oh, look at that. This is a very large rattlesnake. It's going to have a lot of venom. Drop for drop, its venom's not as toxic as some of the other rattlesnakes, but that's only part of the equation. It's not just how toxic it is, it's how much it gives. This particular kind of rattlesnake gives huge amounts of venom, staggering venom yields.
The large yield of highly toxic venom makes it one of Mexico's most deadly rattlesnakes.
You get the milking container, mate? We'll go ahead and get sorted.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Collecting venom from an angry 6-foot snake is never an easy task.
So as soon as I brought that venom container out, bang, she nailed it. And she actually went over the side of it. So you can see that they can open their mouth very, very wide.
The rattler's venom delivery system is the most sophisticated among snakes.
When they bite down, they've got these big compressor muscles on the venom gland here, and then that squeezes the venom gland sort of like a turkey baster. Imagine you've got a baster, you give the bulb a squeeze, it'll drive the liquid down the tube.
This system allows them to control the dosage of venom they inject, depending on the threat perceived.
She thought she was defending herself, so she gave her full load of venom. But if she had bit onto a rat, she probably wouldn't have given anywhere near that amount of venom. All locked up.
Although it's one of Mexico's most lethal rattlesnakes, more needs to be known about its venom.
It'll be used to learn more about how well the antivenom works, how efficient it is, and also what's in the venom and what potentially we can use this venom for. Now comes the fun part, releasing her while not getting bitten.
Finding more efficient antivenoms is not just Brian's profession, it's personal. Although he's been bitten dozens of times by deadly creatures, it was a rattlesnake that nearly killed him. Brian had been working with reptiles for many years when he decided to add a highly venomous canebrake rattlesnake to his collection. The hot day and nervous hands made it difficult to grip the rattler. The bite was instantaneous. The tip of a single fang pierced his skin. Lethal venom from a gland behind the eye was injected through the hollow fang and into Brian's bloodstream.
Did you get bit?
Yeah.
He felt no pain and assumed it was a dry bite with no venom injected. But the clock was ticking, and Brian had no idea.
As I was driving, I started getting effects that were, well, very unusual.
The venom was on a collision course with the optic nerves in his brain.
It happened so rapidly. Within just a couple of minutes, I could just see the colors disappearing, and then nothing but yellow. And I knew I was in trouble at that point in time.
Brian continued driving as the venom's effects intensified.
I started getting all kinds of other sensory disruptions, different kinds of hallucinations, delirium. I was out of it. I can only imagine that this must be what it's like to have a bad LSD trip.
No longer able to drive, he pulled into a gas station for help. Brian lost consciousness and collapsed. The venom attacked his nervous system, causing his blood pressure to crash and his heart to beat erratically. Without emergency care, Brian could die. Brian spent 4 days in critical care, with no antivenom accessible. He knows he's lucky to be alive. That experience years ago fuels his work today. The venom he collects is the first step toward producing life-saving antivenoms and medicines. Brian's first day of hunting has added new venom to his research stock. His search for the beaded lizard continues.
Thank you.
Brian returns to the jungle for the beaded lizard, but he's on his own. With only one set of eyes to spot venomous creatures, he has to be cautious. His first catch
Gotcha.
is not what he's expecting.
Hello, beautiful. So this is a cane toad, also known as a marine toad. They're native to this area.
When threatened, cane toads fill their lungs to appear larger to predators. Their second line of defense is much more toxic.
They have these two huge glands on the back here that you can see it's actually secreting the white toxin. And that's a defensive toxin. It's going off like little Patriot missiles. So when a predator bites down, they get a mouthful of toxin.
Although toxic, the toads are considered poisonous, not venomous.
Well, a big day of hunting. This is our glorious catch. Not quite as magnificent as a bearded lizard, but still fun. All right, girl. Ah, look at that grace.
Deep inside Mexico's Chimela Reserve, Brian discovers an area of shallow pools. At the beginning of the monsoon season, dry stream beds fill with rainwater. Animals living among the pools attract predators looking for a meal.
Oh, hello.
Including one of Mexico's most notorious biters.
This is the Mexican cantil. It is by far the most medically important snake in the area. It bites more people than anything else and also causes more deaths. And part of that's because it adapts very well to human habitation. And it's basically the landmine of the snake world around here.
Cantils, like rattlesnakes, belong to the family of pit vipers. Their venom is known for its powerful blood and tissue-destroying properties.
There's been some interesting toxins coming out of the venoms of close relatives of this that have been used in the treatment of stroke, and also some that are displaying anti-cancer properties. But the main use for this particular venom is to study antivenom effectiveness. It's a very short-tempered snake. It's really cranky. I don't like to say aggressive, but it's a pretty mean snake. It's not the kind of snake you would necessarily want to find around your house. And that's one of the reasons why so many people end up in the hospital here from it.
Medical emergencies caused by snake bites have led scientists to focus on snake venom. But Brian changed that focus and venom research forever when he discovered that snakes share a common venomous ancestor with lizards.
When we discovered that there was more venomous lizards than we had previously realized and that they shared a common ancestor with all the snakes, that meant that they have a single origin of venom inside the reptile.
His discovery redefined the reptilian evolutionary tree by creating a new venom-bearing group, which included hundreds of lizards. Armed with this new knowledge, Brian traveled to Indonesia, home of the world's largest lizard, the Komodo dragon.
If you're doing venom research, you have to go for the most iconic animals. If I'm going to be looking at venomous lizards, sooner or later, I've got to go and look at the Komodo dragon.
Dragons grow up to 10 feet long and several hundred pounds. Their powerful jaws and serrated teeth are designed to rip and tear flesh. Rotting flesh trapped in the dragon's teeth was long believed to create septic saliva laden with bacteria. This bacteria was blamed for the Komodo's killer bite. But Brian saw that the effects of the dragon's bite were similar to other venomous creatures.
When the Komodo dragon bites something, what happens? Just keeps bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. The blood does not clot. It didn't make sense by what we know of how bacteria work. It was, in fact, the way that it was described was much more how venom works. It never sat right. So, of course, inevitably, I had to look at that.
Brian used MRI technology to reveal a complex system of venom glands in the Komodo's lower jaw. Once again, he proved that the conventional wisdom was wrong.
They're not using bacteria, they're using venom. This is the venom research equivalent of, well, saying that the Earth is round instead of flat.
The venom from overlooked lizards like the Komodo could be the next substantial source of compounds with medicinal properties.
They're a rich resource for drug design and development. There's a lot of very unique and potent compounds in there. If you want to find something new for use in drug design development, you're more likely to find it from a unique venom than you are from looking at yet another cobra. Ground that's been gone over pretty heavily.
That's why Brian is on the hunt for the beaded lizard, which has an even rarer venom that he has yet to study. And he's found promising terrain.
Most of the water is disappearing on the hills, so everything has to come down here for a drink. All the life gets concentrated around here. You can kind of think of it as basically the coral reef of the whole area. Anything that wants to survive, sooner or later has to come through this. Right. Oh, finally.
Brian's first beaded lizard is found hunting near the pools.
This is looking like a young adult male. It's only the beginning of the wet season, so you can see he hasn't fattened up yet from a long dry. He's got a lot of meals he's got to get into him. See how skinny the tail is. The tails are skinnier than the Gila monsters anyway because it's a much longer tail. They use it for their climbing. They're really good climbers. All right, so now comes the fun part. We've got to get them behind the neck. They've got a really agile neck. They can swing it around really quickly. Gotcha. All right. He wants to bite. And if he bites me, you'll hear me kilometers away screaming. But I'm not gonna let him bite me. You can see these big, heavy beaded scales. Each one of these has a piece of bone inside of it. So he's a really heavily armored animal, great defensive capacity, and a bite to match. Got these huge venom glands right here. I don't know if you can see the teeth. They're tucked down underneath the gums because you can see a fair bit of venom already out. I'm gonna go ahead and bag him up. This has been such a quest. It has taken me years to find one of these things. All right, first wild beaded lizard, finally. Oh.
Brian has bagged his first wild beaded lizard. Now comes the hazardous task of collecting its venom. Brian rejoins venom researcher Alejandro Carvajal to tap into his local beaded lizard knowledge.
Okay, so you've got a different way of milking them than I do. So what we'll do is do it your way.
Yeah, you'll see that it's an easier way, not just for the animal, for you.
Hello, darling. Okay,
Okay, in this way, we will just put a parafilm here, just to receive the venom. The main thing here is that he is angry now, so we just want him to bite the rubber.
There we go.
That's it. So you just put the head just above, exactly.
And then you just let it drip out.
Just flip it. That's
bend down a little
it.
bit. There we go. That way it's
That's
nice and steady.
pure venom.
Oh, very nice. That is an easy way of doing it indeed. I like it.
Alejandro's milking method harnesses the lizard's natural defensive instincts to bite and chew.
You can see he's rhythmically biting down. He bites, releases, bites, releases. Every time he bites, it puts pressure on the gland, and that's squeezing the venom out. They don't have muscles on the venom gland the way a snake does.
Although its delivery system is less intricate than snakes, the venom is just as complex. Several compounds in their venom have shown promise for drug development, and one has already been used to save thousands of lives.
The most medically important one is a type of peptide called the exendin peptides, and one version of this has been modified into a very potent diabetes drug, and right now it's $1 billion drug.
Brian hopes that further analysis of the venom will reveal other medicinal uses.
If we have a new wild animal like this from an area that I've never studied before, we may discover entirely new classes of toxins that are totally unrelated to anything that we've ever seen. All right, now if you'll tuck him inside.
It's taken Brian 5 years to get his first wild beaded lizard. But it's just the kind of rare venom that he's after.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. They've had millions and millions and millions of years to tweak their venoms and change it, make it slightly divergent or incredibly different. All the work's been done. We just need to be clever enough to figure out how to harness it.
As night falls, Brian returns to the jungles of Mexico. He has his coveted lizard venom, but he's not done with Chimela. There's one more creature he's after.
After all these big rains, there's a lot of life out. Insects are out, frogs are out, lizards are out, snakes are out. With this amount of insect life out, the scorpions will be out too.
Most scorpions are ambush predators. They use vibration-sensitive hairs on their body to detect movements. They can be hiding anywhere, waiting to strike. Brian is out to capture Mexico's Centroroides scorpions, some of the most deadly in the world.
Mexico is the #1 country with the scorpionist problem all around the world.
Now why?
Because of the geographical area of Mexico. It's amazing for scorpions.
Right.
So they grow a lot. The weather, the rain, the food. They have everything here. And you know, it's a very, very important problem because all the scorpions can live just around the houses of the people, you know?
Yeah.
Scorpions' highly toxic venom and close proximity to people make them a serious health problem. While antivenom is readily available for the Centroroides species in Mexico, that's not the case in the United States. The Arizona bark scorpion is America's most lethal, and currently there is no antivenom widely available. The samples Brian collects will be used to test antivenoms in the United States and throughout Mexico.
Wow.
There we go.
What a view.
Although hidden by darkness, scorpions are easily spotted using ultraviolet light.
Nice. It's a funny thing, nobody really knows why the scorpions reflect like that. There's been theories that they fluoresce to attract moths. I think that's rubbish. They can see really well in the UV, but I don't think they're using it to find each other or for any kind of communication. It's a bit of a mystery, but whatever the reason, it's very efficient. In Mexico, the most medically important scorpions belong to the Centroroides genus. And collectively, in only a 4 or 5 month period during the wet season like this, they account for over 300,000 stings. Of that, nearly 100,000 of those require hospitalization and antivenom. It's a war zone. There's nowhere else in the world like this.
With up to 1,000 deaths each year in Mexico, scorpions continue to be a major area of research. But the work that Alejandro and his fellow venom researchers do is not without risk. Alejandro's co-worker, Jose Castillo, was collecting specimens for his research. Searching near a pile of rocks, he never saw the deadly scorpion underneath. Threatened, the scorpion plunged its stinger into Jose's hand. Glands in the scorpion's abdomen injected neurotoxic venom into his bloodstream. The burning pain of the sting was immediate.
Oigan, sí. Sí lo vi.
Jose tried to remain calm, aware that panicking would only spread the venom more quickly. But he could not ignore the symptoms that he knew could kill him. He began to salivate heavily, making it difficult to breathe. Numbness spread throughout his body, and he grew weaker by the minute. The neurotoxic venom wreaked havoc on Jose's nervous system, causing his leg muscles to spasm and lock. Jose was deteriorating rapidly, and it would take the team an hour to get to the nearest village. Arriving at a rural clinic, Jose's breathing became compromised, and he was losing consciousness. Without treatment, he could die. With the clock ticking, Jose was administered antivenom. Like a molecular bonding agent, the life-saving antivenom locked onto the venom compounds, slowing the attack on his nervous system. It took 3 more injections to save Jose's life.
I was feeling that they had truly saved my life with the antivenom. I even started thinking on how important it is having developed this type of technology. In few words, it saved my life.
In response to this health threat, Mexico has become a world leader in scorpion antivenom research. Brian hopes that his work here will help lead to a new American antivenom.
There we go. Got another. So if you'll get the container ready.
Yes, I have it.
Got it. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, well, the storm's just about here. Oh, look at that lightning. Let's go ahead and get the milking done before the rain hits.
Yes.
All right, brilliant.
Let's prepare all the stuff. So make it fast.
Brian stimulates the venom glands with a small electrical charge. Each milking extracts a tiny amount of venom.
There's a nice little tiny drop of venom. It's not much, but it'll definitely serve our purposes.
Now let's take the venom and go to the laboratory and see the components of this venom.
It will take Alejandro several days to prepare the venom samples for analysis. In the meantime, Brian is off to the United States to help a friend solve a mystery with life and death consequences. Brian has come to the San Jacinto Mountains of Southern California to help his friend and local ER physician, Dr. Sean Bush. Sean is seeing new deadly symptoms in patients bitten by the Southern Pacific rattlesnake.
All right, off we go.
He's called Brian in to find out why.
We're getting effects we've never seen before, and that the antivenom's not working. And we need to know what's going on in order to save these lives.
With temperatures nearing 100 degrees Fahrenheit, Southern Pacifics seek shade under rocks and vegetation.
Jump for snakes.
All right, let's try to work those kind of rocky areas down over there. So that's what they'll be denning up.
Okay, this rock, I feel lucky. Well, I don't feel strong, though. Oh, it's like a glacier.
Yeah, so like these big deep crevasses like this, Sean.
Okay,
This is what we want to be looking in.
I gotcha.
This is perfect. Good choice. I can see why people would be getting bit here. Whoosha!
That's my ninja. Any luck, Fry Guy?
Nah, nothing, not even a shed. We know from your bite victims that this is a good area for snakes. Well, as with anything else, the only thing to do is just keep looking.
Okay. That's the magic
right
sound.
here.
Okay, now you would totally miss that if you didn't make the noise.
Yeah, it's rather convenient when they do that. All right, yeah, tolling them right there. All right, there goes some of our venom.
Sorry about that.
All right, just hold them nice and steady. See all the energy went right there?
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll keep them on the ground.
All right.
All right, there we go. All right, we've got some venom, more than enough to do the analyses. We can certainly fingerprint the venom, test the neurotoxicity, and also test the blood effects.
The venom of the Southern Pacific has long been known to destroy blood and muscle tissue. But a disturbing new trend is emerging. Sean is also seeing patients with neurotoxic effects that cause paralysis and respiratory failure.
This type of snake not only bites more people or kills more people, but it produces the greatest diversity of symptoms. We are seeing every part of it. We're seeing muscle effects, we're seeing blood effects, we're seeing multiple kinds of neurotoxicity. It's an enigma, but also a real challenge. All right, we got what we needed. We'll put him right back under the same bush.
Perfect.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, you hook. All right, just put him, tuck him underneath there. All right, perfect.
Off you go.
Whew.
You're home.
Sean and Brian changed their technique for nighttime hunting.
It's this time of night with the vegetation so cold, the road's gonna be like one big flat hot rock for them. Perfect.
The warmth of the roads attracts the cold-blooded snakes, who use the heat to remain active.
Yeah, it's pretty much perfect conditions right now, man.
Snake!
There he goes, there he goes, there he
All
goes.
right.
Oh, it's a hell of a ride. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and hook. Yeah, right there. Now, hold the body. Okay. Try to orient the head to my right side. Now, what I want you to do, so we don't waste the venom, go ahead and hook. Put the hook on him. All right, let's go ahead and milk her. All right, we've got a good yield out of this one. We've got the venom we need. Let's go ahead and release it. All I'll first do is I'm going to release the jaw, then I'll put the head, press it against the ground, and then I'll release. You'll be left with the shock absorber.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Let me just get all this set. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right.
While scientists agree that something in the venom is causing new deadly symptoms, the reason is still a mystery. And Brian believes it's only going to get worse. Some scientists theorize that the Southern Pacific's mysterious new venom is the result of breeding with other rattlesnakes, creating lethal offspring. Others believe the venom is evolving in some sort of predator-prey arms race. Brian has his own theory.
You get all these theories going around. Are they evolving quicker? Are there hybridizations? But what's actually happening is the venom has always been that diverse. It's always been that complex. It's just been overlooked because they haven't been biting people.
As towns and cities of Southern California expand, people continue to move deeper into Southern Pacific territory, and more bites are occurring. Doctors are just now seeing the full range of the venom's lethal effects.
With the work that I'm doing with these snakes, and also with the collaboration I have with Sean, that can certainly point the way, if not to the development of a new antivenom, perhaps the use of a different antivenom.
Brian's mission to help his friend Sean has an added bonus. One of Sean's patients survived a rare venomous lizard bite. He can now give Brian critical information about the venom's effects. Lizard venoms are Brian's specialty, and this is an opportunity he can't miss.
Sean and I work really well together because He's got an access to a resource, which is the victims. Human victims can tell us a lot about what's going on in the venom.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Brian Fry?
Chris Giacoletti, nice to meet you.
Nice little black and white Tegu you have there.
Chris Giacoletti is a California breeder whose reptile collection contains hundreds of unusual species, including Gila monsters.
So what do we have?
Well, here we got in here.
Oh, nice.
Is, two of the species of Gila monsters.
Mm-hmm. Nice big girl.
Nice big. They're both females.
Right, belly full of eggs on her.
And this is the one here that actually bit me.
For over 20 years, Chris has worked with reptiles on the sets of Hollywood films. He's been bitten many times, but it was a Gila monster that was by far the most painful. Chris agreed to have his Gila monster photographed after a weekend reptile expo.
If I could take one out for you. No problem.
Neither of the men noticed the curious boy standing nearby. The boy darted toward the venomous lizard, and Chris reacted. Clamping down on Chris's hand triggered the release of venom from glands located in the lower jaw. The lizard's instinctive chewing action kept the venom flowing into Chris's flesh. He was unable to free his hand from its vice-like jaws.
I was getting pumped with venom every second, just grinding and grinding. And instantly, my hand just felt like it was on fire.
Powerful enzymes in the venom destroy tissue, causing uncontrolled bleeding and intense pain.
When I finally got to the hospital, the first thing they ask you is, what's your pain level? 1 being weak, 10 being severe pain. And I believe I told the doctor I was at 100.
Chris's suffering continued as the damage inflicted by the Gila monster left his hand immobilized for nearly 2 months. By collecting venom from the Gila monster that bit Chris, Brian can match the venom with its known clinical effects.
I really like to, whenever possible, link up venom to a victim. Because every venom's different, and the advantage of somebody like you over a lab rat is you can tell us exactly how awful you felt. All right, let's go ahead and give you a milk. Try that. I know that if this was your finger, he'd be chewing in no time.
She'd be chewing like there's no tomorrow.
Do me a favor and just hold on to that.
Later analysis may reveal which toxins caused Chris's pain and severe bleeding.
Really gushing.
Information Brian can use for future drug design.
Sean treats the victims, I study the venom, and it works back and forth. The venom will tell us what may happen to the victims, but similarly, the clinical symptoms may predict what's in the venom. Okay.
The work of Brian and his network of fellow venom hunters is a deadly pursuit, with the goal of saving lives. That's especially true in Mexico, where venomous snakes and scorpions have claimed thousands. Brian is headed back there to finish the work he and Alejandro started. Brian's Chimela expedition added venom from several new species.
All right.
And the hunt for Mexico's deadly scorpions yielded enough specimens to begin the long process of determining if their venom can be used to save lives. So Brian has come here. The Institute of Biotechnology at the National Autonomous University of Mexico is a world leader in venom research. Scorpion studies have been conducted here for decades. But with up to 300,000 stings annually in Mexico, anti-venom development continues to be a major area of research. The anti-venom produced is effective against a wide range of Mexican scorpions. It's critical to determine if it will be effective in treating scorpion victims in the United States.
The Mexican scorpion antivenom works brilliantly against the Mexican scorpions, there's no doubt about that. Let's see how well it works against the Arizona scorpion.
A tiny amount of venom from the Arizona bark scorpion is injected into a mouse.
So at this point in time, the venom would be diluted, what, about 10,000 times?
At least.
We've injected a minute amount of venom into this mouse, but even so, we should see the effects very, very quickly.
It only takes minutes for the first symptoms to appear. The neurotoxic venom short-circuits the mouse's nervous system, causing involuntary muscle twitching.
This is sort of an excitatory paralysis where there's too much stimulation going on. Even with a sublethal dose, you can still see very profound, quick, and noticeable symptoms.
As the venom spreads, the symptoms become life-threatening.
Well, the neurotoxins are starting to affect the breathing. This would be the lethal stage.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and give the antivenom.
Okay, I agree with you.
The test will show if the Mexican antivenom neutralizes the lethal effects of the Arizona bark scorpion.
We can see that the potentially lethal effects are the first ones to reverse.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Within an hour, the venom's effects appear to have been neutralized, and the mouse returns to normal.
Well, I'm impressed. We've got approximately the 10th most toxic scorpion in the world.
Yeah.
We saw how quickly the symptoms went in, but then also how quickly the antivenom reversed.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a phenomenal antivenom.
With proven effectiveness, clinical trials in the United States will continue. But it could take years before the antivenom is widely available. Brian has one final test before he leaves Mexico. It took 5 years, but in the remote jungles of Chimela, Brian Fry finally captured his first wild beaded lizard. He's hoping that the venom from this rare animal may contain a vital new compound to combat disease. The Chimela venom has a composition unknown to Brian. His first step is to identify the individual toxins. Using a mass spectrometer, Brian is able to break down the complex mixture of compounds.
I'm injecting the venom into a vacuum so powerful, it might as well be a black hole. Inside of that, the pure toxin is fragmented into the very ions that make it up. And by the fragmentation pattern, I'm able to actually determine the exact molecular weight of that toxin.
Comparing the molecular weights to other beaded lizard samples will reveal if there are new toxins present.
This is our mass spectrometry analysis of the beaded lizard venom from Chimela. It contains some of the toxins we've seen previously in other beaded lizards, but it has something totally new. It has a toxin type with a molecular weight range that doesn't match anything. This is a new opportunity. This is something that we could potentially discover a new drug from. This is what we set out to find.
It may take years of further testing, but this initial discovery could lead to new life-saving drugs for some of the world's deadliest diseases.
Great discoveries in science are very slow and often built in very incremental changes. Little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, bang, something works and you get a big leap.
For Brian, it's the thrill of the next discovery that keeps him traveling to remote corners of the world in search of deadly animals.
I would hope that we haven't discovered all the venomous creatures out there. I would hope that there's new surprises waiting, that there's creatures we haven't even thought of that have venom. It's the most exquisite feeling to discover that, wow, this is venomous. We never knew that. That's the real thrill of science, is that of discovery.